there, friends, neighbors, and lovers of stories from the Southern Appalachia. I'm excited about I have written in a trilogy set in these Southern Mountains of North Carolina. And the first book is The Legend of Lovada Branch, the Cove. I would hope you'll share my excitement about the life that is being lived here. I'd like to share how the story started. Chapter 1, The Silence Before the Scream arrested Kyle in mid-step. Apprehension sandpapered his every nerve and skittered like cat claws up his back. Captive in that soundless instant, as if before a cracking tree falls, Kyle waited, uncertain where to leap. Swinging around, Kyle saw his wife, Wren, thrashing wildly in the shallow ford he had just crossed, beating the rock-strewn water of Loverly Creek with her hiking staff. "Snake! Snake!" she screeched as she struggled for footing. Although hampered by the pack on his back, Kyle sprang toward her, grabbing for her flailing arms. Blinded by her terror, Wren missed his grasp and crashed heavily to her knees in the muddied waters. Snagging one of Wren's shoulder straps, Kyle managed to heave his struggling wife up and onto the bank. Wren swayed, dripping and panting, her eyes wildly scanning the tangled growth around them. Copperheads and rattlesnakes were said to be rampant upon this branch that tumbled down the southern slope of Unaka Mountain. Carefully, Kyle guided Wren toward a low boulder beside the trail where she collapsed, letting her backpack slide from her trembling shoulders. Dilated pupils masked her normally blue-green eyes, blurring her manic search of the May greenery about them. Wrapping his arms around Wren, Kyle rocked her, stroking her short reddish hair as shudders coursed through her slight frame. When Wren's eyes finally refocused, she smiled wanly up at Kyle, who was regarding her with a mixture of concern and surprise. His normally feisty woman cuddled against him, eliciting the protective instincts in him that she ordinarily rejected. Sighing, Wren snuggled more deeply into Kyle's embrace, savoring being cradled. Kyle's brow creased in confusion over this prickly, independent lady who occasionally dissolved in terror, overcome by phobic fears. His long brown fingers gently kneaded Wren's shoulders, expressing the surge of love her vulnerability evoked in him. In strong, warm arms, in her moment of panic, such comfort was a dizzying gift that she felt compelled to test over and over during the 3 years of their marriage. But as Kyle had made it abundantly clear that she was the major focus of his life, Wren's many anxieties had begun to diminish. This hike into the Smoky Mountain wilderness was one expression of her growing trust. Easing his own pack onto the mossy ground, Kyle settled back against a thick poplar and pulled Wren against his chest. Her rapid breathing evened out as she slowly relaxed against him. Trying to elicit Wren's trust reminded Kyle of the time he had tamed an abandoned fox kit, a long and ticklish affair. Half reclining on the leaf-strewn ground, Kyle and Wren listened to the finches and nuthatches chattering overhead, their chirps and whistles mingling with the gurgle of Loverly Creek. Stirring, finally, her plaintive whisper barely audible amid the forest voices, Wren murmured, "Why is it they scare me so? I just panicked when I saw that wavy shadow in the water." Kyle nodded and chafed her cold hands between his own larger ones. Snakes figured largely in Wren's repertoire of phobias. Even this terror, however, had not prevented her from planning this backpacking trek with him into a seldom traversed section of the Smokies. Kyle, stand tanned and sturdy, was at home in the woods as his Cherokee ancestors. His dark brown eyes surveyed their path instinctively, and he would have noticed a snake near the ford. Other instincts, however, told him this was no time to suggest that Wren rein in her imagination. Instead, he complimented Wren on her alertness and smoothed her disheveled hair. Wren gazed up into Kyle's broad-featured face, her fingers tracing his prominent cheekbones and square jawline lovingly. When a smile quirked the corners of his often grim lips, she touched them gently, wonderingly. Kissing her teasing fingers, Kyle shifted her small frame more securely onto his knees. A busy gray squirrel, scurrying overhead, dislodged some petals that sifted down into Wren's lap. Tucking his silvering hair more securely under his headband, Kyle glanced upward. A great laurel, rooted in an overhanging rock, drooped over them. When Kyle offered Wren a fragile blossom, she drew a deep breath and smiled. "Remember?" she whispered, and Kyle nodded, his smile moving up into his eyes. "Only 3 years ago," she marveled, rubbing their rings together. "You were worth waiting for," he declared quietly, seeing amused gratitude chasing itself across Wren's mobile features. "You finally rescued this old maid," she giggled, wondering fleetingly how it was that Kyle, too, had entered a first marriage only in his early 30s. The work of melding their diverse careers and interests had pushed a number of unasked questions about Kyle's past into a back burner in Wren's mind. But observing him function so comfortably on the trail today was arousing her suppressed curiosity. This backpacking trip was their deferred honeymoon. Much of their camping gear was borrowed, but the goal of this hike was uniquely their own.